We will start now. Welcome to the last session of Introduction to Core Skills. For the past 2 weeks, we were doing Introduction to Core Skills. Week 1, we did digital literacy and CTPS. Last week we did creativity, and today we are dealing with the communication and collaboration. Welcome to this session. I have noted that the weather is quite bad in Lesotho, but let's hope that it is not going to affect our workshop today. Let's start with reflections. Last week you did creativity, and we posted a Google activity on the Google Classroom, and I am happy to report that quite a number of you submitted their tasks. About 15 people submitted their tasks, and I am impressed with the amount of work that has been done and the number of deliberations and the number of suggestions. As part of reflections, what I'll do, I'll just share a number of things that made sense in terms of what you were discussing in the Google Classroom. I'll just focus on question number 1, which I think Tuli will be very, very happy to hear that you are looking forward to implementing creativity within the curriculum. The question was, think of a creative person you know. What is it they do that make you say they are creative? And I like the answers because they are actually advising us in terms of what we should be doing in our classrooms. For argument's sake, some have said a person is creative if he has unlimited belief of possibility. A person is able to take risks. A person is always busy, thinking ahead, thinking of projects. A person who loves projects, that is, doesn't shy away from taking challenges. And there were examples that were given there that you can basically try in your classroom, that making a radio, let your learners attempt that, making a grinding maize machine, using toilet roll papers to make cell phone stands. I learned a lot, guys. Begin to motivate your learners. And it was also said you need to change ways of doing things and become imaginative in your classroom. And it advised that it's now time for teachers to bring their best in teaching and learning. This person says teachers must understand that they are enablers for learners to be creative. So let's move away from focusing on examination and basically think about how we are developing the learners for the 21st century. Another one said, as educators, you need to be original, you need to be imaginative, you need to be purposeful, and you need to value what you are doing. One said hairdressers are also creative people, so it's something that we can try in our classroom. Somebody said Mapolo draw, you need to make them draw. And then somebody mentioned, 2 people mentioned specific people. One said, I can imagine Mr. Ngombi, who's an architect and has done a lot. Someone said, I love this one. He said, myself, I am a creative person. She was referring to herself because I have composed a song on climate change and I have performed that song, which is very, very good for the teacher, drawing portraits. Another was saying a small boy making cars out of wires, covering them with boxes and using radio batteries. A recycling project can assist learners in being creative. Another one said, as educators, we need to use our questioning skills and ensure that we encourage learners to reflect critically. Thanks for doing that homework. You can see that if you can begin to basically implement these suggestions, these 16 suggestions that were made in the Google Classroom, there can be change in our classroom. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for submitting this, for taking time, preparing for the classes and doing your homework. I want now, before I put on the slides, to call on MKM. Is MKN around? Are you in the room, MKM? Are you in the room, MKM? Okay. I gave her this task sometime last week. He was supposed to report last week, but if he is not around, I want anyone of you to basically comment on your reading about communication and collaboration. What are the abilities that are needed on communication and collaboration? When you were reading the handout on collaborative and communication skills, what are the things that you found out? Anyone can report. That was handout, that was part of reading. Anyone? Okay. Thanks, Julie. It looks like no one has read the handout on core skills and competencies. So it means we are still going to pack that question. Remember, on session 1, we dealt with questions, and one of the question pitfalls as educators is we should not ask questions and respond to them. I won't respond, especially this was a very short activity where you were basically asked to read the core skills and competencies. And today we're dealing with communication and collaboration. So as part of homework, you will have to post your answers on the Google Classroom. What are the 5 abilities? What are the 5 abilities that one should have when he's communicating and collaborating? So I'm not going to respond to that because it was part of homework. So I extend the homework again. Let's come to the second one. Anyone to respond on the video? You watch the video on communication and collaboration and deep learning. Any comments on the video? I know quite a number of you responded, but before that, I hope you have, before that, I don't want to miss what is on the WhatsApp that is posted by Nana. Nana is showing us a picture of creativity in her classroom, and he's saying this is what one of the learners did. He used boxes and some grass to make that heart, which is very, very beautiful there. So that's an example of creativity. Halala, Nana, halala. Halala to Nana.
Halala.
Halala, it's a very good one, Nana. Anyone to share in terms of the video that you have watched? I have sent a video on communication, collaboration, and deep learning. Anyone to comment on that video? Are you still around, guys? Are there people in the classroom? Can you just open your video for a second so that I can see that I'm not alone? Open your video for a second and then close it so that I can see that I'm not alone. I can see Kibogele. Are we together, Kibogele? Okay. Poker is in. Kibogele is in. Also, there are people in the room. No, you can close because I'm asking now the third question and no one is responding. So I wanted to check if I'm not alone in the room. I want someone who has watched the video that was sent last week where a teacher was explaining the improvement that has taken place in his classroom because now he's using collaborative teaching strategies, teaching and learning strategies. Anyone to respond? Mr. Poker?
Yes.
Kibogele, your hand is up. Can you respond? Yes, my dear.
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I have watched the video and I have realized that the learners or the students inside the video, in that video were in groups. That is, they were collaborating. They, even in their groups, they were communicating with each other.
Yes.
They even ask one another, each other's questions, and others respond.
Yes.
And and they also, as they are communicating, they were jotting things down.
Yes.
Yes, and that thing shows me that they have a critical thinking. They think and solve the problem. And I don't know, what can I say? Because what I've realized is that the group work, once you are a teacher, you have to let your learners to have group works in order to communicate and to allow them to think by their own and to ask and solve the problems by their own rather than solved by the teacher.
Okay.
Yes, I don't know if any clarity.
Is there anything that you want to add?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine, ma'am.
Okay. No, I'm also fine. Thanks for that. You have seen in that video, that's what Kibokele is saying. Group work is very important. Group discussion was is important. Another thing, there's critical thinking and there's a problem solving in that classroom. What else?
Hello.
Yes.
Yes. Even though I didn't watch the video, I'm still checking where it is, but I can say something about deep learning.
You can see something about deep learning, isn't that so? And
yes,
when you say you've seen, yes?
Yes, I can say something. I can say something about deep learning.
You can see something about deep learning and what is causing that deep learning in that classroom.
Okay, let me just start by saying deep learning should be specific. So it was specific. It should be a specific depth of study.
Okay.
Where, yes, and what I've just seen is that individual differences should be considered in terms of students' approach in learning.
Okay, so you need to be very specific. You need individual attention, your last point.
Yes, so it is also contextual.
It was contextual, so it's very important that you make your learners discuss, and it's very important that you contextualize what you are dealing with, because if you contextualize what you are dealing with, it's easier for people to understand. Remember, when we're dealing with Bloom's taxonomy, we had to contextualize that and look at the landscape of Lesotho in order for you to basically find the similarities between Bloom's taxonomy and the landscape of Lesotho. Okay, thanks for that, sir. Okay, now let's, any other person? The last one now, before we move. Okay, if there's nothing, we now continue with today's session, which is not a very long session because already the video that you have watched has captured everything that we are going to discuss this afternoon. Let's begin to ensure that there's communication. Learners discuss. Let's begin to ensure that there's collaboration in our classroom. And the moment learners communicate and collaborate, then that's the beginning actually of deep learning. Remember, the introduction to core skills is actually saying, let's ensure that when learners are learning, we don't stop at surface learning. We go deeper and deeper and deeper, and they are able to understand. So communication in terms of the British Council, a number of things need to be done in the classroom. One, communicate effectively orally, meaning that you have to engage your learners in a conversation, talk to them about the topic. And this is why when we start a session, we always encourage oral communication between us as facilitators and you as participants, communicate effectively in writing. That is why we always say to you, write whatever you want to write in your WhatsApp, and also complete your Google Classroom, because we want to also ensure that we communicate effectively in writing. Again, it's very, very important that when you communicate, understand that communication is a two-way process. Hence, it actually means you have to be an active listener. If you are good in communication, then you must be a good listener. If you can't listen, then your communication has got challenges. Understand that you are in a partnership now, and in partnership, you need to understand that you are going to be working with diverse communities. So understand that you need to listen to others in diverse communities. Actually, diversity does not start in partnership. It's there in our classroom. The person who has just reported has just said, understand the individuals in your classroom. You will have a variety of learners in your classroom. They are diverse in terms of their thinking abilities, in terms of their intelligence, in terms of understanding. So you need to bring them on board. You need to understand that we are working in multilingual environments, like between me and you guys. I am Xhosa speaking and you are Sotho speaking. And there are times when you write in the WhatsApp group and I get excited when you write in Lesotho, and I appreciate it because it's a multilingual environment and it's very important for us to understand our own languages, you know. So understand that the more you build these partnerships, the more you are going to be dealing with multilingualism. Hence, in our classroom, it's very important that we use the language of instruction, and also we use the home language of the learners, so that you code switch when you realize that there's a problem in your teaching. Another thing, let's understand that there are various forms of communication. There's verbal communication and there's non-verbal communication. You need to respect the verbal communication, what you say and how you say something to your colleagues and to your learners is very, very critical. Like I understand sometimes in our classroom, we do get frustrated when our learners do not understand something that you have been asking over and over again. But it's very, very important that you understand verbal communication. You understand that you are a professional. For argument's sake, if I can take the very first example, when I was asking who has done the homework, who has done the reading, you know, when I realized that there were no responses, I just said, guys, please read it again. Please do the work again. I still have the please, because it means that I respect myself and I respect you guys. But you do that even in class, even if when you are angry, don't start shouting, you know, unnecessarily. Understand them, understand your verbal language, and again, mind your non-verbal communication. It says a lot. Mind your body language, mind the gestures. Okay, so let's develop that as early as possible in our classroom. We can develop the communication skills as early as grade R, as early as the foundation phase. Remember, when we take learners through communication and collaboration, we are preparing them for work in the 21st century, because these learners are going to work in diverse international teams. Remember,
Hi, this is Will.
yeah, it's just that no, I'm still around. It's just that there was a plane, so it was also affecting.
Yeah,
me
I
from-
noticed. I thought this view. Let me take the opportunity. I don't know whether it's just me, but we can't see your slides, and the only thing that is visible on our side is just the cover.
Hi, Bo.
I'm telling you. So
Okay.
that's why I thought let me take the opportunity.
Can you put on, because I'm looking at the slide. Okay, can you put on music, and then Faris, I will close, and then Faris, can you take over?
Yes.
Faris?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because my slide is on.
Yeah, we can't see any of your slides. We can, it's moving now, but it's not on presenter mode. So it's not on slide mode.
Okay, then there's something wrong. Faris, can you take over?
Okay, I'll play music.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Which slide am I supposed to present?
Slide 2.
Is this the correct slide?
No, move back.
Back.
Okay, that's the one. Okay, thanks, Faris.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Faris. I was slide 2. I was saying one of the things that we need to develop early in our classroom is to ensure that our learners are able to communicate effectively, and they communicate orally, they communicate in writing, and also develop active listening skills, because if you are communicating, you need also to be a good listener, and train them to be able to listen to others, because they are going to be working in diverse environments. And let's also understand that there's multilingualism in our classrooms, and let's mind the verbal and the non-verbal communication. Why are we doing this? It is because we are preparing our learners for the 21st century. If you remember, when Molly was dealing with digital literacy, there was a video which you were also given as part of homework, where you watch these learners changing jobs time and again, and it was saying that learners are going to move jobs many a times in their working career. So let's prepare them for working in diverse international teams, meaning that they must be good communicators, and let's prepare them to be able to learn from and contribute to the learning of others. Is very, very important. Let's ensure that there's a shared responsibility. Let's ensure that learners are able to cooperate. Let's ensure that learners are able to lead. Let's ensure that they are able to share work and delegate and compromise to produce new and innovative ideas and solutions. It's very critical that our learners have this. You know, if I can just pose it's not a question, it's a comment. Imagine if these have not been developed early enough, and you find somebody being a teacher that cannot communicate with others, that cannot write a simple memo, that is very poor in listening, he only likes his or her voice, a person who cannot work in diverse international teams, a person who does not want to share, a person who does not delegate work. Those things do not start when one is an adult. They start very, very early. And schools from grade 1, grade R, up until one finishes universities, they are supposed to ensure that learners are able to communicate, because if we have failed them in this part, it has a way of showing itself in any field at any level. Imagine if you can't communicate and then we say go back to school because your educators have missed taking you through communication and collaboration. So we have got a critical role to play to our learners. Okay, let's move on to the next slide for us. Let's move on. Okay, I want to give you 5 minutes. 5 minutes. You look at those 4 questions and you respond to them in terms of your practices now. You respond in the WhatsApp group. How do you use groups in your classroom? And what criteria do you use to group your student? I want us first to focus on those 2 questions. How do you use groups in your class? And the second one, what criteria do you use to group your students in your classroom? Let's spend 5 minutes on those 2 questions. Okay, 5 minutes is up, Tulin. Okay, there are quite a number in the WhatsApp group. Limpo is saying I group them in terms of those that are deaf and those that have got a hearing problem. That is in terms of their special needs. In terms, I use numbers 1 or 2 to 2s. So using the numbers, that is numbered heads, I actually group them randomly and let them make their own groups. Okay, they randomly and give them responsibility. They count themselves up to 5, then the ones goes together, the 2s go together, and the 3s. So that's the numbered heads according to their villages and clans. Then they tackle a given problem. So when you group them, there's basically an issue to be covered. I use grouping in my class to discuss and come with different ideas, boys and girls, and each group should have both good and slow learners. So you have got a mixed group of abilities there and different sexes. I normally make groups with headings of the subject. For example, colors, I group them according to colors. That is, I will have oranges, fruits, and so on. On countable and uncountable nouns, I check their abilities by making games. I explain the task clearly. Rules for group interaction, and okay, I use groups to allow kids share ideas. I group them according to their abilities, ages, sex, and abilities to cover more content. So you can see from these inputs that there are various ways to group your learners. You can't have the same group from January up to March. You need to ensure that you keep on changing depending on the activity, depending on the abilities, depending on the special needs, depending on the problem that basically needs to be discussed. And you can see that the criteria there is basically to ensure that you cover more content, enable learners to share and to work in diverse methods. And Tomeng there is already zooming in terms of the jigsaw methods and different group works together to share what they know and present it to the rest of the class. For now, I'll group them according to their abilities. I use groups to allow learners to share some experiences and ideas. I want Tomeng to keep, I would love you to report on the jigsaw methodology after this activity. Please keep that in mind. There are also those learners that have written in the MST chat that I group them according to their skills and levels of ability. I group them randomly, and there is Mr. Tabang is saying I mostly make groups of manageable, which is very manageable because you want all the learners to participate, because if the group is too much, you might not achieve what you want. So your group must be manageable. Provide the task for each, which will be presented for the class at the end of the session. And it's very important that in terms of what Tabang is saying there, that you allow the learners to listen. Remember, we have said at the beginning when we're defining communication that one of the things that we need to develop is listening. Listening, it's a skill. It doesn't come automatic. We have to develop it. Learners must be able to interact, okay, and share what they know in the classroom. And then the other one has said you group them alphabetically. Remember, if you have got these methods of grouping learners, it means a lot of planning. When you are planning your activities, you also need to plan as to how you are going to facilitate them. For instance, if you look, since the day we started, we plan how you are going to work with you collaboratively, so that you also have a voice. In as much as we are online, we are trying, though very difficult, to ensure that we hear your voice and you discuss. I will give you an activity and say all of you must do this activity. Then whilst I'll have this group, I'll also be having groups where I say you will present what you have discussed, and I'm trying to ensure that all of you have a role basically to play in the classroom. For the next 2 minutes, I'm sure number 3, what are the main purposes of the group? You can see that indirectly you have referred to them. I want you to respond to the last question. What do you think is the main difference between group work and collaborative learning? And I can see Mr. Poker's comment there. I give them instructions, which is very, very good. I set the rules for communication. I let them ask the questions, make tasks more challenging, encourage involvement, encourage interdependence and division of work. I group them physically and consider the layout of the classroom on how it will impact on the group work. So time and again, you also have to look at the physical resource, how you structure your classrooms. Okay, can I give you 2 minutes? You discuss the last 2 questions. 2 minutes. Music, Tuli, for the next 2 minutes. Thanks, Tuli. Okay. In the WhatsApp, Stylo is saying, I use group. The purpose is basically to discuss and solve problems. So allow learners to discuss, allow to take responsibility and solve problems. I write numbers from 1 to 5 and distribute learners to those who take the same numbers will be in one group, that is numbered heads. The purpose of the group is to encourage learners to cooperate and share different ideas and improves communication. So quite a lot there in terms of Tomeng, that one, learners must be able to cooperate, learners must be able to share different ideas and improve communication. Remember, this is needed in the 21st century. Divide learners in manageable groups, okay? I use letters, 3 letters, A, B, and C. Those who take C, they will go to the corner. Those with A will go to another corner, and so on and so on. I managed. Thanks, Mposa, for joining at last. That's communication. You are updating us, and you can see the non-verbal, the clap there, and the sign using those gestures there that we've just spoken about. And then there's an apology there. That's communication and that's professionalism. This is what we are training our learners, that when they get into the workplace, when you're going to be late, you apologize and you excuse yourself. Thanks, Elaine, for that. Remember, when we do these things, we are preparing learners for the world of work. And then Limpo is saying to learn each other's language, to share ideas and listening. These are very, very important, that if I am working in Lesotho and I'm saying I've got a partnership there, I must take responsibility upon myself to understand the language, to be able to share the ideas and to listen again. No discrimination. The moment you start working in groups, in diverse groups, and there's rotation within the group, then discrimination stop. Learners from the weak will learn from those that are strong, and those that are strong, they still have something to learn from the weak learners. Enable learners to cooperate and understand each other, to help learners to interact amongst themselves, which is very, very important. And again, it helps the shy learners to learn best through peer teaching, as some learners learn best with their peers. I'm sure you have also noticed this point by Belena. It was in the video that the more learners work together, the more they learn from their peer, and basically and basically there's improved understanding from them. Somebody must open for Tomeng, but okay, to allow learners share their ideas, enhance interaction and communication. Group work requires less interaction. You know, the main difference, I like that point, the main difference between group work and collaborative learning is accountability. There's a lot of accountability. There's a lot of planning when you are doing these things. Learners learn to respect others' ideas, and indeed into discussions. They learn to be humble whenever they are corrected. There are no differences. I will give you homework there, and maybe in one of the homework is, I'll say, go to Google and basically research what is the difference between group work and cooperative learning. Already we've said that it's about accountability, it's about planning, it's about these two things being related to each other. Okay, no difference.
May I just read some of the comments that are coming in the Teams chat?
Okay.
I've just got 2. I think it's from Mr. Porker. He says, I give them instructions, I set rules, I let them ask questions, make tasks more challenging, encouraging involvement and encouraging interdependence and the division of work. I group them physically and consider the layout of the classrooms on how it would impact the group work.
Okay,
And then I
thanks.
have another question here saying the main difference is accountability. That is how much learners account for their learning and development competencies. Thank you,
Yes.
Ms. Vuyo.
Thanks very much, Thuli. And the last question, I would allow you to go back, you research the last question. What do you think is the main difference between group work and collaborative learning? And you post your answers in the Google Classroom. Let's move on to the next slide, Faris. Okay. These are the different types of cooperative learning strategies, the think, pair, and share, and sometimes called the turn and talk, the jigsaw, where you place the learners in groups, the number test, the tea party, the round robin, the right around, and the carousel. I am moving on those very, very swiftly before I summarize them because this was part of homework. However, I would love Tomeng. Tomeng, can you unmute yourself and then you tell us about the jigsaw strategy that you have mentioned? Tomeng? Okay, if Tomeng is not there, but she sponsored this in the WhatsApp group. Lucy? Lucy? Lucy, are you in the house? I think I saw something that says, at last I managed. Lucy, are you in the house? Kate and Kiko? Any one of those in the house?
Hello, Vuyo.
Yes, my
Sis
dear.
Vuyo.
Yes, my dear.
Okay, did you say I should say more on jigsaw method?
Yes, my dear, I said so because you mentioned it when you were asking the 4 questions. What is it?
It is a method that is used when you already have the groups where I've read. For example, we have 4 groups, participants.
Yes.
So in those groups, we could say that the students should, I said they are 30 in groups. So they should number themselves from 1 to 3. So those that have numbered themselves number 1 in different groups should form one group and are assigned to perform a specific objective.
Yes.
Then they do the task. They explain everything amongst themselves. Then afterwards, they go back to their previous groups. Those individuals should explain to others, and so on. That's what I found.
Oh, okay. What you found is very, very good. The jigsaw. Yes, indeed, you group your learners and you give them numbers. So you have combined the jigsaw and numbered heads. Can you see that? 1, 2, and 3. And then you give ones, their question, you give twos, their questions, what you have mentioned that as the specific objective, you give 3 their objectives. They discuss the specific objective that you have given them, and when they are clear on those, because now when they discuss those specific objectives, we call them the experts And when they are experts, they go back home to their original group and they basically discuss, share what they have learned in their expert group, okay? And all of them now, they are experts, they all go to their home groups. Thank you very much, Ntomeng, on that. Thank you, Ntomeng, on that. So Jigsaw, as Ntomeng has mentioned, students are placed in home group, that is the main group, and then the expert group, this is what she has said, I give them 1, 2, 3, and then I give them specific objectives, and they discuss those and go back to their home groups. And Lucy, is Lucy in the room?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Continue, ma'am. Can you share whatever you want to share, any of those cooperative learning strategies?
Maybe I can say only the advantage or the importance.
Whatever you want to say about them. Yes.
Okay, importance of collaborative learning. It says that it improves the life skills such as higher learning, higher level thinking, self-managerial, and leadership skills. It also improves oral communication, self-esteem, confidence, and responsibility. And it improves deep learning. Yes, that's what I've read.
Okay. Thanks for that. The moment you start on cooperative learning strategies, you are actually enabling learners to think at higher level. You are also improving their thinking skills. You are also enabling learners to take responsibility for their learning and basically to think deep about what they are doing. Just for example, the expert groups, they think deep about what they are doing and they take responsibility because they still have to share this information with their own home group. Okay, is Kat inside the house? Okay.
Yes.
If Kat, okay. Yes. Not Kat from the British Council.
Oh, okay.
I Kat from Cat and Keko. I'm sure they are twins because in the phone it's written Cat and Keko.
Oh, okay, no problem, sister.
Oh, okay. Okay, seeing that they are not here, we've explained Jigsaw. Are you in? We've explained numbered heads where you give the learners numbers. Learners are given numbers, and then each group, now the ones are given their own questions, and then they discuss, and then so on and so on. Numbered head is also a way of dividing the groups, and then the think, pair, and share, which is also called turn and talk. What is how happens in the think, pair, and share? You are given an activity to think on your own, okay? Like I basically do, I post an activity in the WhatsApp group or in the Google Classroom, and I want you to think about it. And when you have thought about it, some of you have said, go to your staff room, pair with somebody, and then you come to the bigger group, you share. So that's a thing, pair and share. You think about it on your own, and then you share your thinking with another partner, and she or he also shares. The two of you share, and then you come to the bigger group, you share to us. When I say so and so, do A, B, and C, I have already given that person to say think, and then go and research, and then you are going to share in the plenary with us. And then there's the tea party. In the tea party, It's like you go to a tea party and you give your learners a question. You ask them to go around and mingle with everyone in the room, discussing the question that they have and what the other person the other person's question. So tea party basically enables the learner to interact with almost everyone in the classroom. And as they are interacting with everyone in the classroom, then they begin to gather information. It means that they begin, there's also an element of team building there, and there's also an element of gaining information. Sometimes the tea party is almost similar to a buzz, you know, bees buzz, bees move around fast. So during the tea party, you move around as fast as possible, trying to gather as much information as possible. That's one methodology of using the tea party. And another methodology of using the tea party is when you form two circles of your learners and they are facing each other, and each learner has a question. Then you ask the person that is facing, and then you move the circle around, and then the learner meets another one. The essence is the learner must be able to interact with everyone in the classroom. Okay, and then we've got the round robin. The round robin is basically where the learner moves again around the room in a circle, and they answer a question that is given to them, and they discuss it, and ultimately everyone again has had an opportunity to discuss with other learners. The importance of this strategy is that it gives the learners an opportunity to work together and to solve a problem, and ultimately join all the ideas that have basically been gathered by the different learners. And then the right around, basically, the right around is when the learners have a piece of paper. You ask a question, they write their responses on the piece of paper. The first learner writes his or her response. The second learner reads what has been the answer of the first learner, and then adds his strategy, and so on and so on, until all of them have basically written. There is another strategy before I come to the carousel, that is 3.2.1, which is written by Mr. Porker. Mr. Porker, can you take up the mic and explain what you mean by the 3.2.1 for the benefit of the class?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah, but thanks, Puti.
Okay, that strategy is 3-2-1 strategy. It helps students to structure their responses to what they have been learning in the classroom. So the teacher can ask them to describe 3 takeaways.
Yes.
2 questions, and 1 thing they have enjoyed during the teaching and learning. So that will provide the easy way for teacher to check the understanding of the learners and engage the students' interest in the teaching and learning.
Oh, thanks a lot, Mr. Porker. And we're going to do that towards the end. That is go everyone towards the end. I hope you have listened clearly to Mr. Porker, that at the end of today, we are going to apply the 3.2.1 strategy. Can you repeat, Mr. Porker, for the benefit of those who did not understand or who did not hear you?
Okay, I said another strategy is 3-2-1 strategy. So
Yes.
that is whereby the teacher will ask the students to describe three takeaways from the learning. Also, they have to answer 2 questions from the learning, and the last one will be one thing they have enjoyed about the lesson.
Okay.
In that way,
Thanks.
thank you, ma'am.
Yes, finish, my dear, finish. Sorry about that.
Okay, I was saying in that way, the teacher will be able to check how the students understood during the teaching and the learning, and then the teacher will try to engage the students into the learning interest.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Poka, for that. And then we have the last strategy. It's not the last, but it's what we have just sampled, because when you were reading from your handout, I'm sure you have seen others like your round table, you have seen, so there are quite a number of strategies. We've got the carousel. I always say the carousel is like the merry-go-round, or if it's not the merry-go-round, it's like the conveyor system at airport where our suitcases are placed when they have been offloaded, and then they move through that conveyor belt, and as they move on the conveyor belt, each one basically takes we all take our bags. So in the carousel in the classroom, you design as many questions as possible, and then each learner picks up a question and then discuss that question. So in terms of the carousel, I always say the carousel is where there is movement of learners in the classroom. It's where there are discussion of questions, and then there is reflections. So there's a lot of strategies of cooperative learning strategies that one can utilize in the classroom. Can we move, Faris? Okay, and there are quite a number of strategies that we can use in our classrooms. Actually 6 effective practices that we can use our classrooms to ensure that there's communication, and the research shows that these have got positive outcomes. One of the things that we need to do as educators in our classroom is demonstration lessons. Let's demonstrate, and when we use demonstrations, you are able to explain the pedagogical content knowledge. Demonstrate, let the learners observe what basically you are doing, and they are observing, they are able then to draw on the content knowledge that is required. Again, demonstration, they also show quite a number of things, like they show the behavior, they show the attitude, they show the technical skills. So when you demonstrate to learners and on how to communicate, you are actually giving them the pedagogical content knowledge. You are also giving them the practical skills. How do you do this thing? And then lastly, you are also giving them the right attitude and behavior. So in our classrooms from now are going to move from being theoretical and just focusing on the chalk and the board. Have those demonstration learners, those demonstration lessons. Again, as an educator, you have that we have looked at a number of cooperative learning strategies. So meaning that you have to use the whole class, just like I am doing now, because I'm talking with the whole class. At certain point, I talk with the groups, and then I pair the work. So these are some of the things that you need to do in your classroom. I'm sure in the video on deep learning, you have seen that teacher was saying for the past 20 years, I've been doing this thing. I've been focusing on chalk and talk and on the group, and a very little learning was taking place in my classroom. And now that I'm using group and ensuring that individuals sorry, take accountability for their learning, there's a lot of learning that is taking place. I'm sorry about that. And then another thing that we need to do in our classroom is frequent and relevant use of learning materials beyond the textbook. One of the things that we need to do as educators, let us stop the over-reliance on textbooks. So if you are teaching a particular topic, go out, go and research, the topic, so that the more you research, the more it's easier for you to facilitate the lesson. The more you research, the more you understand how learners learn best, and basically the more you are able to come out with more practical things. So there's a lot of research that is needed for educators. One of the things educators norms, in terms of the norms and standards for educators are supposed to be lifelong learners. Educators are supposed to be researchers. Hence saying move beyond the textbook. Can we move on? And then, is there a question? Okay, I thought there was somebody speaking. Another thing which is very, very important, which basically we discussed when I was dealing with critical thinking and problem solving, we said one of the things that we need to do as educators to ensure that there's learning in our classroom, we enable learners to solve problems, we enable learners to communicate, is to ask open-ended questions and closed questions, so that when you have open-ended questions, learners are able to engage in a topic deeper. And it's very important that you keep on expanding depending on the responses. Like for instance, when Tomeng said to me, I am going to use a jigsaw, I said, okay, I'll give you space. I'm expanding in terms of what she has said. When Mr. Parker said
Sorry, Mrs. Buyo, I think you're on mute.
Yeah.
Thank you. We can hear you now. Mrs. Buyo? Mrs. Buyo, you are right now. We can, yeah.
It's not controlled by me, I've had my
I can hear you now.
Okay.
I can hear you now. Thank you.
Thanks, Tuli, for that. Let's use open and close questions. Let's expand on the responses, like I have expanded on Tomeng's question. Let's encourage a student to ask questions and to comment. Like I was saying, Mr. Parker has sponsored here a 3.21. And because I want to encourage all of you to sponsor questions, we're going to use that strategy towards the end. Classroom is what I mentioned at the beginning, that we are working with diverse environments, and there's multilingualism in our classroom. So let's make use of our local languages. It has got a critical role in ensuring that learners are proud of who they are, and they are proud of their identity, they are proud of their country. It starts with simple things like using your own language. It ensures that you value your language, you value who you are. And then at times, remember, at the end of the day, we are preparing these learners for the 21st century. We are global citizens, so they need to understand instructional leaderships. But there are times when, as an educator, you need to ensure that there's code switching time and again. Another thing which is very, very important, which I cannot overemphasize, is the importance of planning. You plan every year, because every year you have got different students. You don't say, I have been teaching this for the past, but you have never taught this child that is in front of you. And when you are teaching them, you need to basically understand their thinking, and your planning must basically go with their thinking. And again, you need to vary the lesson sequence and how you do things. Like, for instance, you can see today I'm drinking a lot of water, and as I'm taking each and every sip, I'm asking myself, am I not overemphasizing the use of lecture method? Am I giving you space? It's very, very important how you sequence and how you do things in a classroom. There's a lot of variety. Let's move on, Faris. Any questions, guys? Okay.
No question. No question.
Okay. Then I'm sure I'm going to move very, very fast. We've talked about numbered head, and we have also discussed them. It's a strategy, a very important strategy that we use in our classroom. And I have said it enables learners to work in small groups before going into the plenary or the bigger group discussion. So you give your learners numbers. You have got, you give them numbers 1 to 6 or 1 to 3, depending on what you have, and then you ask them questions. You set time frames, and then they discuss the question over a period of time, and then thereafter they go to their groups and then they report. Let's move on. Okay, there's a question now. There are 6 effective communication practices. Which ones can you remember, and what are they? I'm going to give you 5 minutes. You go to your groups and discuss the 6 effective communication practices. Just state the 6 effective communication strategies. Can I give you 5 minutes, Tuli? Music, Tuli. Okay, thanks, Tuli. It looks like there's a comment in the group, that in the WhatsApp group, that these slides, if for other people, they are written in a language they don't understand. I'm sure they are posted in Cape Town, and I am in East London, but I can read them in English. But I've seen 2 comments that they can't see the slides. I will try and ensure that immediately after the session, I post the slides. I have a Tabang on they're saying one of the 6 effective communication practices is local language and code switching. So time and again, use local language and you code switch, meaning that you move between the languages that people. And then there's a guest there with saying self-awareness, know your audience, specificity, being attentive, being positive and respectful, listen more than you can basically speak. And then there's Likanyana on the WhatsApp group. Let's use demonstration. Let's be flexible. Let's use the whole class and the grouping. Let's use frequent and relevant use of learning material. Let's use open and closed questions. Yeah, let's use local languages, and there's planning. Let's pasha, let's halala for Mr. Lekanyana or Ms. Lekanyana. He has given us all the answers.
Allah. Can I also share, Mrs. Vuyo, what is coming out in the chats?
Okay.
Mrs. Vuyo, in the teams, we have a guest saying that frequent and relevant use of learning materials beyond the textbook. And another guest saying self-awareness, know your audience, specificity, being attentive, be positive and respectful, listen more than you speak.
Yes.
So this is from Mr. Lebagaye. This is Lebagaye. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And those, in as much as they have not been mentioned in the workshop as they are, but they are very good principles for everyone who is communicating and collaborating with others. Be self-aware, know who you are speaking with. That's very, very important. Just be specific. Don't take so many turns and confuse people. Be attentive, because if you are attentive, it means you are listening to other people. Be positive, value everything, value. Remember, one of the approaches and strategies of the British Council is appreciative inquiry. You can't implement appreciative inquiry if you are not positive. So in any situation, always be positive. Respect yourself and respect others, because if you just talk with people, it actually means, in as much as you think you are not respecting other people or you're not respecting the learners, in return, it's actually saying this person does not have respect for himself or herself. Listen more than you can speak. There is a saying that there is a reason that we have got only one mouth and two ears, because it says listen a lot but speak less. And I think in the WhatsApp, I have picked again, people are putting emphasis, Belina, frequent and relevant use of materials beyond the classroom, planning by Nana and varying lesson sequence. Kate and Kiko, are you in the room? Demonstration, or maybe she's seeing the slides that we're posting. Demonstration using the whole class, frequent and relevant. I lost a connection, so my team is not okay. Thanks for that, guys. And these are the things that you need to do in your classroom. The next slide. Next slide, Faris. Okay. Faris, you almost did the same thing and changed my language. There was something that I didn't understand. Okay. And these are the recommendations that have emerged during one of the projects, which is called the Thinking Guide. They are reasoning and provide information for their discussions. This is what we are doing now. When I say, okay, can you explain, Mr. Poka, what do you mean by 3.21? Okay, we want to see the reasoning and also offer an opportunity to basically discuss. Again, I think Mr. Poka in the chat here said, I will set out rules in my classroom. Ground rules for the task for talk must be established so that students gain confidence in exploratory talk. It's very, very important. I think it was mentioned by Mr. Poka in the chat that I will have rules in the classroom, have ground rules for talk, because those learners that are shy would not speak if they are given an opportunity. And remember, in all classes, there will always be a bully or people who think high about themselves, and then they talk and not give others an opportunity. And then another thing is activities should be designed that elicit debate and encourage joint reasoning. It's very, very important that whenever you are teaching learners, you need to have activities that are going to encourage your learners to discuss, to debate, and basically to reason what they have learned in class. Okay. Can we move on to the next one? Okay, I want us now basically, Mr. Poka.
Hello, ma'am.
Mr. Poka, I want to change how we have framed that one. Okay?
Yes.
We have framed our last question to be, what is the one thing you learned about communication and collaboration that you did not know? I want you basically to use the 3.2.1 instead of that question.
Okay.
Can you lead Mr. Poka? I'm going to switch off my video. You are the teacher for the next 5 minutes.
Yes. Yes, Meg, can you say again, what am I expected to do?
I want you explain the 3.21 and the 3.21. If I understand you correctly, you said in 3, you ask the learners, describe 3 things that you like about the session. Number 2, you ask them a question answer. So there's a question there that will be your number 2. And now 1 is what you love. So use the 3.21. Can you take over?
Okay, meaning that I just use 3.21 to just to reflect on what I've just learned.
Yes.
Okay, so let me start with 3 takeaways.
Yes.
One of the things that 3 things that I liked here, that was about the difference between the collaborative learning and group work.
Yes.
Whereby we just mentioned a few things like accountability, and that activities are used to teach competencies of the course, and the learners then on their grades, and
Yes.
based on their performance on assessment and competencies. So in accountability, that is where learners have to account for what they have just learned. So when I'm just going back to the group work, it helps learners to communicate and effectively. They just learn from each other. So, like you have been saying, some of the learners can be shy, some can be bully, and some can be lazy. And then, so that's why I said we have to set the ground rules. And after setting the ground rules, this means that each and every learner will have to participate in the work given them. So I think I've mentioned two things about 3 here. Another one is about the criteria that we use to select the groups. So here, that's whereby we said we can use a physical grouping. We can just physically group them, and so that some learners can be discriminative. They can discriminate others, or they can just group themselves according to how they befriended each other. So you have to be careful when you select them. So I think I've just said more about the first point, which is 3. So I think let me go to 2. So about 2 here, I think we can just say we have to list out of effective communications. We can just list 2, which is open and closed questions, materials, and planning. So let me just go to the last one, which is 1. What did you say about 1, May? Can you remind me?
I didn't say anything. I'm listening to you. You know, I just left it broadly, like you defined it.
Okay, just one thing that I've just enjoyed in this lesson today is that most of us, we have been participating. So the learning has been actively engaged. So many of us have just participated, and I didn't know one thing from these strategies that we have been talking about, and that is jigsaw. So that is what I liked mostly. Thank you, May.
Thank you very much, Mr. Poka, and thank you for sponsoring that question. Now I have posted a question in your WhatsApp following on the strategy that has been sponsored by Mr. Poka. I want you to list 3 takeaways from today's session and 1 thing you enjoy. 3 takeaways and 1 thing that you enjoy. Let's give them 5 minutes to write.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to do that.
Time up. Time up, Tulin.
Thank you, Sis Willa.
Okay, what the list 3 takeaways in today's session and one thing you enjoyed. Alice, I enjoyed explanation of group formation in the classroom. Limpo, in communication, I learned listening is important more than speaking. In grouping, I learned the carousel, the tea party, and the right robin. In collaboration, I like going in deeper learning. I enjoyed not shouting when things go wrong. I enjoyed when you say we have to respect even if we are angry. I enjoyed the entire lesson. In fact, I enjoyed the 6 effective communicative practices was good for me. Respect for one another, even if it is tense. How to group learners, collaboration versus group learning, and 6 effective communication and respect in capital letters, respect. I enjoy the 6 communication practices and their explanation, collaborative learning and grouping. And Stylo is saying, keep yourself calm if things go wrong. 3 takeaways, grouping methods, especially the jigsaw, collaboration versus communication, the difference between group work and collaboration. I am taking strategy in grouping learners and effective communication. I like the idea of listening more than speaking, cooperative learning strategies. The group is busy today. Criteria to use to group students, 6 effective communication and how to use groups in class. Takeaways, cooperative learning strategies like tea party, round robin, carousel. Enjoyed effective practice whereby I must be a researcher in order to use relevant material. Mpoza, open and close question, use of language and code switching, flexible use of the whole class, group and pair work are my 3 takeaways. I'm so in love with the strategies and enjoy them so much. I feel like I am applying them now. Clap the hands, clap the hands, clap the hands. I enjoyed cooperative learning strategies, especially the tea party and the carousel. Listen more and speak little. That's what I enjoyed. Communication strategies and listen more and talk less. Tuli, is there anything in the meeting chat?
I think everybody is responding in your WhatsApp group, nothing on the chat, but I see the WhatsApp group is coming in fast and furious.
Yeah, going beyond the textbook as educators. I think now we have come to the end of the session. Any questions, guys? Can you post your questions, comments before we say our goodbyes for today? I thought it was going to be a 1-hour session. So we ended up. Questions, you can raise your hand. Nonjebo, do you want to say something? You can raise your hand. Any question? Yes, Nonjebo. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
I have unmuted.
Okay, what's that?
I'm Tawang.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I have no question. I just want to congratulate or say that you really made up the good work. The presentation was well meant and we have gained a lot from it. So thank you very much for today's presentation.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Any other person? Then if there's no one, let's call it it's not call it a day. Faris, Faris,
Hi.
Faris, can you take me to session 6?
Okay.
It's not a very long session. It will take us less than 5 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Okay, this is basically the way forward, just to update you. Okay, we have now finished session 2. We are going to wait for directives from Sharon and Tabitha to basically tell us what to do. However, normally after the introduction to core skills, we would discuss 6 core skills, isn't that so? We did digital literacy. You can see digital literacy is what we're using on a daily basis. We did critical thinking and problem solving, creativity, and communication and collaboration. You can see that communication and collaboration and digital literacy go and creativity go through all these workshops. Then our next workshop, with the permission of Tabitha and Sharon, is basically critical thinking and problem solving. We will go deeper in terms of what we have discussed in this workshop, guide you in terms of how do you ensure that learners look at different perspectives, they evaluate evidence. That workshop has got 8 hours online. Remember, what we have just done was 4 hours, so it's 8 hours online, meaning that if we continue, it will be 4 Wednesdays of 2 hours online, and then 8 lines of asynchronous learning. That is work that you will do on your own in your own school. And fortunately, we have structured the work that you don't feel the 8 hours, because when we give you work to do in the Google Classroom, it's part of that asynchronous learning. And thereafter, you start going back to your plans and thinking about the plans that you have. Your plans for your partnership will be encouraging you to develop plans for your classrooms. And you also have, you begin to write your case studies. Already, I'm happy because some of you have posted some testimonies in terms of the case studies for the coming conference, and then we encourage you to start working together as clusters. So that will depend on what BC says we should do. Then the next one, Faris. Okay, we've done this one. I included it when we used poker, so I'm not from all of us to all of you, from the BC to our Lesotho partners, I wish to say siyabonga, kiyalebuga, enkosi, thank you, baya baya, danke. See you next Wednesday. I will be posting your post-activity quiz in the Google Classroom this evening. Okay? Thank you very much and bye.
Bye, May.
Bye.
Hello.
Bye. Bye. Bye.